the low end, when you were competing as a pro, what was like a total contest, a total grams for a week at the low end when you were prepping, and like the high end, the most grams you ever did? Because some people will say Jay probably did like 8 or 10 grams a week.
No, I mean, I would honestly say, remember the testosterone would come down, and I mentioned, 500 was around the sweet spot of what I would do a week of testosterone. I went to 750. I went to 1,000.
Yeah.
But I found that settling around the 500 mark was legit for me. And adding, I would cut that way down. So I would literally be on very little testosterone. I mean, there was a point where I only did, an enanthate testosterone. I didn't even use propionates really, because for some reason for me, I just didn't have great, I would get swelling from taking those kind of injections.
Yeah.
But adding up with the, you're dealing with like Winstrol's or suspensions or primobolins, which are very low dosages. I would have to say I reached, maybe 1,500 mgs a week in contest prep. Would probably be around the mark. Hard to really say unless I sat there and thought back, okay, remember this is, it's been 9 years since I've actually, competed, and even the last year, I don't think I did a heavy cycle. I was already close to 40, but you just seem to need less and less when you develop that muscle. It's just like the training. You don't need to train outrageously heavy weights to maintain a certain amount of mass. But once you already achieve that,
right.
But it wasn't a lot. Like, it wasn't a lot, man. Like thinking back, I would say around, 15. Maybe at points I maybe hit 2,000 on a week's, prepping for a show, but off season, man, it was like, 500 tests and maybe some, maybe an Anadrol 50 here and there. Like, so maybe some D balls, like through, training through like different cycles as I was coming up. Yeah. Maybe some Anavar, which was very low dosage. I've switched on and off, but I would say that, it wasn't extremely high, not even close to what you mentioned with 8 grams or whatever.
The comments below are going to be like, Jay's a liar, Jay's full of shit. But you know what? You went from, you started bodybuilding on your 18th birthday. Is that right?
I started on my 18th birthday, 91, August 3rd. Yeah.
You're like 180, 85 pounds that day?
I was about 200 then.
Oh, okay. So within a year, you were 240 or more?
Yeah, about the first year I started training. Because remember, the unique thing for me is like I was doing concrete. So I maintained 200 pounds doing concrete. Well, I stopped doing that and I started college and I started eating like a horse and not working in the outside anymore. And I was starting to do security. So I remember I would go work the security job when I was in college at Quinsigham in Worcester.
Yeah. And
I'd actually bring a cooler and I'd have all my food. I'd have a microwave. I'd have everything. So I'd sit in there and eat the meals because I just read in the books that's what you needed to do. So I started this six meal plan a day, just eating the meals. And I put on a ton of weight. And then once Chris Aceto got a hold of me and actually I followed a really strict diet, I learned a little bit more about training. By that point, I was a little more experienced. That 240 turned into like a really conditioned